Eddie Howe has spoken out regarding the tunnel bust-up against Aston Villa yesterday, of course. When the first half ended, there was a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, obviously from the Villa side about Duran sending off. On the Newcastle side, Rodgers' pathetic attempt to get Joelinton sent off, and it all seemed to boil over in the tunnel. And also, PIF have come out and stated their ambition for 2025, and nothing much has changed on that with regards to winning trophies. But we'll have a look at that a bit later on. But we'll start with what happened in the tunnel yesterday, and of course, which ended up as a red card for Jason Tindall. It turns out now that there was actually at least 20-man fracas going on in the tunnel as the players were heading back to the dressing room. Now, as I say, there was a lot of heightened anger, there was a lot of heightened frustration amongst both sides. Of course, Villa felt very aggrieved by Duran sending off, even though, from my point of view as a Newcastle fan, and I'm not being biased here, that for me was a blatant red card. A blatant red card. He could have put his foot anywhere to the side of Fabian Schär, but what I didn't like was the follow-through. After he'd hit his backside, he followed through on the back of his head, and I think that's what got him sent off. And certainly, when I was listening to Mark Clattenburg's thoughts during the broadcast, he also said that it was probably the second kick out to the back of the head that Anthony Taylor picked up on and got him sent off. So yes, Villa were frustrated about that. And then later on towards half-time, of course, Joelinton has the ball in the corner. He takes it round Rodgers. There's a bit of a sort of coming together, pulling each other's shirts. And then Joelinton's hand brushes the chest of Rodgers. Rodgers goes down, grabbing his face in a pathetic way to get Joelinton sent off. Now, don't get me wrong, the shirt pull on Rodgers was a yellow card. Joelinton deserved a yellow card for that. But the aftermath of that, with Rodgers, the way he pathetically goes down holding his face, we saw it with Kyle Walker last week as well. This needs eradicating from football. Because that was as pathetic as it comes. With all the cameras now on the field and VAR, you would think that these players would know better not to pathetically dive in like that, trying to get a fellow colleague sent off. Now, a lot of people, pundits alike, have said that, a lot of people have said red card. A lot of people have said no red card for the Duran incident. But for me, clear red card. But it was what happened in the tunnel at half-time, which was very, very disappointing. And Eddie was asked about this, and he said, I don't think it's far off that frustration was involved. These things always start without the intention of it happening in the way that it did. There were probably 17 or 18 people trying to calm it down. So what it then looks like is that more people are involved. And you can understand that. You've got so many people trying to separate the main culprits in it, that it just looks like a holy hell has descended on the tunnel and it looks like a Royal Rumble. But Eddie's right. People are trying to break it up, just get to the dressing room and calm the situation down. It looks like everybody's involved. He says no one wants to see that. It's not at all how I want my players or staff to be. But sometimes you have to stand up for what you think is right and protect each other. We're all standing up for ourselves in that moment, protecting ourselves. Now, when he started off that, you could understand Eddie saying he doesn't want his players or staff getting involved in silly shenanigans like that and a bit of handbags. But then, it looks like he's actually backing Jason Tindall here and saying that, sometimes you've got to stand up and protect what's yours, and basically protecting your team, protecting your players, and protecting Newcastle United. And if anybody is, saying something derogatory about those things in the tunnel or on the touchline before the halftime whistle blows, you're going to get that kind of fracas all the time. And certainly when you look at Jason Tindall, he's a very passionate guy. He stands up for what he believes in. And he always has done since he's been at Newcastle United. Probably like that at Bournemouth as well. But when he's been at Newcastle United, you can see him. He's got Eddie Howe's back. He's got the players' backs. And he stands up for what he believes in. And that's obviously what happened in the tunnel yesterday. Eddie went on to say, I'm not 100% sure what sparked it all because it goes over in a blur. It was right at the top of it. I was right at the top of it, sorry. I think the frustration is spilling out from the Villa camp from what happened in the first half. I saw plenty, but I don't know the actual details of why Jason was sent off. That would need some clarification for me, because I think if you're going to send one off, you could probably send 10 to 15 people off. So I'm not quite sure of what he's been charged with. that's still to come out. As I'm recording this, I'm not 100% sure. Some reports I've seen this morning, quite funny really, because apparently Emery was trying to say something to Jason Tindall, and Tindall's turned around and called him Dracula, or something of the vampiric look about Emery. So for me, that's quite funny. But on a serious note, we have to maybe just look at this and think, there was a lot of passion going on at half-time. Villa had a lot of frustration. Newcastle were very pissed with Rodgers. And Rodgers, for me, I just have to say this, Rodgers looks a fantastic footballer, by the way. For the second half yesterday, he was trying to get Villa forward with 10 men and trying to do a lot on his own. And he looks a really talented player. And he didn't have to do what he did. It let him down big style, but I think he's going to be a wonderful player for Aston Villa. He looks a real talent. So away from that incident, I thought he was one of Villa's best players yesterday. And he just let himself down with that pathetic dive. He wasn't even touched in the face and grabs his face going down. I don't like to see that on a football field. If that was a Newcastle player, I'd be hammering him for that, because I just do not want to see that in the professional game at all, trying to get each other sent off. The Duran incident was different. It was a clear stamp. It was a sending off. And I know the match of the day guys have turned around and said it wasn't a sending off, but I don't know what they're watching. I really don't know what they're watching. And look, if it was not a sending off, I would sit here and say it wasn't a sending off. I don't believe in all this biased bollocks or, just because I'm a Newcastle fan, it's got to be a sending off. It hasn't. If it's not a sending off, I would say so. But for me, in that instant, clearly a sending off. And Anthony Taylor did the right thing. VAR confirmed it, and he got the red card. So, but that's all what started the fracas. And you get so many people diving in at each other in what is a very thin tunnel, Newcastle, isn't it? You've got two rows of players, and that's about it. The space you've got. It does open out as you get to the up the steps and towards the dressing rooms. But when you're coming out there and you're going in at half time, there's going to be a clash. If there's any sort of frustration, we've seen it numerous times at St James's Park and at other football grounds where they've got a very thin tunnel. But look, let's just see what happens with Jason Tindall. I have a feeling he's going to be suspended for the Manchester United game on Monday. He won't be alongside Eddie Howe, which is a little bit frustrating for Eddie and I'm sure for Jason himself. But more news will come out, I suppose, during today as I record this and obviously over the next few days and see what he's getting charged with. So that was Eddie's response to it. And it just, as you'd expect, lots of people involved. So how can you, if there's 17 or 18 people involved, how can you just penalise one or two people? Crazy. Unless punches were thrown or something like that. I don't know. I can't confirm that. Now, the other bit of news today is that Jamie Rubin and PIF have once again come out and said what they are trying to achieve in 2025. This was a really good read. It was in the Chronicle, and it says that Newcastle United owners issue statement on 2025 ambition and multi-million PIF aim. The Magpies are aiming for the Champions League again as they look to use Eurocash to add to £250 million revenue profits. Now, what they did state, and especially, Jamie Rubin, he's been at the front of a lot of it since Amanda left. Very vocal on social media and things like that, Jamie Rubin, which is nice to see. And he his comment after the win against Aston Villa was, progress never moves in a straight line, but we are all absolutely determined to fulfill our ambition for this club. And that is brilliant to hear, because remember a couple of weeks ago when we were going through the iffy form, shall we say, and people were questioning whether PIF was still interested, whether the Rubins were still interested in what we were trying to do at Newcastle. Well, that's been put to bed now, because both PIF and the Rubin brothers have stated that they want this still to happen at Newcastle United. They are fully determined for everything that they spoke about after the takeover to happen. PIF, Yasser Al-Rumayyan, has also come back out and stated, basically reinserting what he said a couple of years ago, finishing in the top 4, our revenue is increasing. Remember, you have to work within the financial fair play framework, so the more revenue we will have, the more players we will be able to purchase. Then the Champions League will add more revenue for us. The sponsorship is improving, and that's more funds and more revenue. If you put all these things together, I think we should have an ambition and an aspiration to be up there as number 1. That is still our goal. So remember when he came out and he said that number 1 for everything is what he wanted to be? He's just said it again. And that's where they want to be. And I think for us fans, I think we have to take that as a real positive, because a lot of people starting to question in PIF and the Rubens and whether they still had the same goals, the same intent for Newcastle United. Well, it's come out now. There you are. They are still very much wrapped up in Newcastle United and want the very best. They want to be number 1. And for me, that's fantastic to hear, because it puts to bed all the rumours about them maybe getting a bit fed up with FFP. They know they've got to work around FFP, but they are working in the background to do other things to achieve more revenue and to be able to spend more money on players. So I think it's fantastic news that, first of all, Jamie Rubin has said that as well, and also Yasser Al-Rumayyan coming out again and just establishing facts that they are still well behind Newcastle United's goals. So it's fantastic to hear. So there you go. That's the little bit of news today, guys. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you have enjoyed it, as usual, hit that thumbs up button for us. It's still really important to the channel that we keep those coming in. And of course, if you're new and you like what you see and you're not subscribed, please hit that button. It is free to do so, to subscribe. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload or a live show. And of course, if you're watching this on Friday afternoon, don't forget 7 o'clock tonight, we've got the Newcastle 3 Villa 0 match review. We'll take a more in-depth look at all the incidents through the game and of course our player rating. So make sure you're around at 7 o'clock for that. Sunday night we've got the preview at 7 o'clock for the Manchester United game, and Monday of course 7:30 p.m. is Match Day Live, full commentary of the game from Old Trafford, and that kicks off at 8 o'clock. So thank you very much for watching, folks, and we'll see you very, very soon. Take care.